Good morning, everyone. We're gonna get started in just a few moments here. See, there we go again. Everybody gets real quiet and attentive. I want to thank you guys all for making it back out. I know that last night must have been very difficult on you, on you in many different capacities. This is a very fun and enjoyable event with lots of parties and frivolity. So I'm thankful that so many of you were able to make it back down here this morning. Once again, my name is Dustin Klingman. I'm the chair of the board of directors for the International Game Developers Association, and I'm privileged to welcome you guys to day 2 of the 2012 IGDA Summit. Thank you. I trust you guys are having a great time. Lots of outstanding panels yesterday, interviews and micro talks, and today I'm very privileged to introduce fellow board member Ed Fries, who's also the current treasurer of the IGDA, who will introduce today's keynote speaker. Take it away, Ed.
Oh, I'm introducing her, okay. Well, it's going to be a short introduction, but a long discussion. This is Julie Uhrman, CEO of Ouya.
Yes. Hi, good morning. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, this is something we put together kind of at the last minute, so we're just gonna have fun up here. Before we start, I should say that in addition to being a board member of the IGDA, I am an advisor to this project and own a very, very small part of the company. So I'm disclosing that I'm biased, and if you don't think I've asked enough hard questions, I promise to leave time at the end where you can ask even harder questions than I'm gonna ask, okay? All right, so let's get started. Some easy ones first. Start at the beginning. Where did this crazy idea come from?
Sure. So I've been in the game industry for a long time, and most recently I was running Direct to Drive for IGN, which is the digital distribution download store that we recently, as of last year, sold to GameFly. And I was watching the industry evolve and change in a number of different avenues. First, from a PC perspective, we were forecasting fewer and fewer games every year. More content was coming out through DLC, people were spending more money on the AAAs, and I was just seeing the amount of great content decline. I was also witnessing a lot of the great sort of AAA developers leaving their shops and going to mobile, and watching how all of the excitement and interest was really around the growth in mobile, which I found quite curious given the fact that, you know, depending upon you ask, it's a $1.5 billion, $2 billion industry, and console gaming is a $12 billion industry, even though it's been declining over the last couple of years for a number of reasons I think we all understand. And so I was just watching how so many great developers, great ideas and content was moving to the mobile platform, away from the television, which I view as still the absolute best screen for playing games. If you ask any gamer, they'll tell you the #1 platform for playing games is the television. It's still where most of the time is spent. Even the most time on mobile devices is spent in the living room. It's also where the most dollars is spent, and yet all the creativity and the new games, the innovative games, are leaving that screen. And so I was trying to figure out why and what sort of the big reason behind that was. I had a lot of experience in the mobile space. One of the things that challenged mobile was that it was so closed. And I started looking at the console space and seeing that they had some of the same challenges, which is it's a closed network to new content. It's a challenge for developers to bring their ideas to the console gaming space. And then I just saw a device that had Android as the embedded OS, and I wondered, is it possible to do this as a game console? And then I started talking to all my friends in the industry, you know, game industry veterans, developers, and the resounding sort of response was, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, an Android-based game console for the television. I can't believe nobody's thought of that. And asked enough people and got enough, you know, good support that we just sort of took off with the idea.
Great. And I mean, the idea really has taken off. I mean, you launched on Kickstarter, and I know you asked for $950,000. I don't know if you were serious that was how much you wanted, but I know it broke the record for the largest amount of money raised in the first day. And what was that like? What was that like to just sit there and watch that money come rolling in and be part of that?
There was no watching. I was diligently working that whole time. I had a slew of friends over that were reminding me of where we were. It was truly amazing. I mean, Kickstarter was not the obvious or sort of first path to market for us with Ouya. We went to VCs and talked to them about the idea, had a lot of great conversations. In general, everyone felt there was a great product market fit, but hardware is still very hard to bring to the marketplace. And venture capitalists are still somewhat skittish of hardware. And even given the traction we were getting, it appeared like it was going to be a very long road to get to where we needed to be. I'm sure you can tell by the way I talk, I like to move fast in pretty much every single thing that I do, and felt that it was a really good time for an open game console that was affordable and accessible to gamers and open for developers. There was nothing new announced at E3. Some people are feeling that the current consoles are getting tired, and we're looking for sort of more creative content, and I felt the time was right, and Kickstarter really started to blow up in sort of the last 6 months. I mean, we saw some incredible game raises done by Brian Fargo and Tim Schafer and Jordan Wiseman. And then Pebble came. And Pebble was, to me, what really sort of changed my mind because it was a product that resonated. It wasn't people that resonated. It was a new idea and a new product that really resonated, and a huge community of people started voting with their pocketbooks, including me, that said that I wanted this. And between that and the success of what Brian had, and Brian Fargo is a great supporter of Ouya, and he's an advisor, he's an investor, we decided that Kickstarter is absolutely the best path for this. We have built Ouya to be open and accessible. We have internally called it the people's console. It is truly for gamers and developers, and if we really wanted to live up to that, we felt it was important to get feedback and support from the community as soon as we possibly could. And Kickstarter is just a phenomenal platform for doing that. So we go out there and say, this is what Ouya is, do you want it? And we have been sort of blown away by the support. I mean, from the number of developer emails that we get on a daily basis, which if you've sent me one and I have not responded, I apologize. I am literally reading every single one. I'm learning so much. I'm learning about your games, what you want on the software side, what you want on the hardware. It is an unbelievable communication that I have with you for you telling me what you want. So I will get back to every one of you. It's just taking me a little bit of time. But you commented about the 950. That is absolutely the number we were looking for. We knew how many units that we were able to sell at the time. We knew how much we needed to sort of finish building our developer tools, and we also wanted to help fund game development. And so 950 allowed us to do all of those things. And blowing past the goal is just amazing for two reasons. One, it means that the idea of Ouya and an open game console has really resonated. And people, both gamers and developers, want this. So it's very much the opposite of Field of Dreams, which I'm sure we've all quoted a number of times. It tries, build it and they will come, right? We have completely turned that on its head, which is saying, if you want it, we will build it. It will come if you want it. And getting over 40,000 units sold in the first week tells us that. We think it's phenomenal momentum, and every additional dollar we get, every additional backer we get just means that we can build more consoles and build more tools for developers. I mean, it all goes back into the ecosystem. So that's why we're excited to see the backer number grow and even the dollar number grow, because it just means that we can do more.
Well, and you've even shown that you've already modified the hardware spec, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we felt really confident about the hardware that we were putting together. We know we can build sort of great, beautiful, high-performance games. We're working incredibly closely with NVIDIA and really tweaking the Tegra 3 to get the best performance out of it, because we don't have to balance performance with battery life. But when we looked at the comments from the community, the number one ask was an Ethernet port. By far, the number one ask. And so we went back to our team and looked at our BOM to see if we could pull it off and still deliver on our promise of a sub-$100 game console, and the answer was yes, so we were able to give that. Now, I don't know any more gives we'll be able to make at this moment, but it was important to us to sort of listen to the community and be able to affect it in a way that they wanted. So we were able to do it with the Ethernet port.
Okay, so just a really quick question. You mentioned Pebble. In case people don't know, Pebble Watch was the largest Kickstarter ever. They raised over $10.26 million. So are you going to beat them?
We want to. We are working hard. I mean, for us, it's not about the money, it's about the backers. I mean, we want to have the largest campaign of backers. I think Pebble was around 67,000. We're at 42 or 43 with 2.5 weeks to go. I mean, that's our goal, because backers means that people want this device, and so that's what we're trying to elicit, that kind of enthusiasm for what we're building.
Okay, enough of the softballs. I'm gonna get some serious questions. I went through a lot of the articles that, there's been a ton of positive press, but you always in the game business get this reaction of negative to the positive. We love to debate things in this business, and so I kind of pulled out a lot of different things, but if I were to summarize, probably the biggest question people have is can you really do this? I mean, can you ship a game console in 9 months?
We can. This is absolutely doable. This isn't rocket scientists. We're not custom building chips. Everything we're using is freely available. We have a great relationship with NVIDIA. We're finalizing our ODM partners today, but before we went on Kickstarter, we are making a huge promise, and you are trusting us not only with your faith and your belief, but with your dollars. And so we vetted it with our advisors and our partners, eBehar and the Fuse Project. We can absolutely do this in 9 months and deliver in March of next year. We can absolutely do this and bring it to the consumers at under $100. I mean, we feel very confident in those two promises.
Just so people know, when you say ODM partners, what do you mean by that?
Oh, the people that are actually going to manufacture it for us.
And how is that get manufactured?
How?
Yeah. I mean, no, I'm just like where, who, what?
Oh, yeah, we're finalizing it today. There are parties in Taiwan and China that we're talking to, people that have made Android set-top boxes before, or even game consoles, a familiarity specifically with NVIDIA. NVIDIA has actually working with us to help us choose the ODM that we work with. They have been truly unbelievable in this process and really embraced what we're doing here.
And do you have the right people on your team to do this? I mean, you're a pretty small group, right?
Well, Ed's on my team, so I think we're doing well. No, it is a small group, and we absolutely have the best team. I mean, at the end of the day, we want to focus on what we're excellent at and partner with people that are excellent in their own right. So there's no better partner out there than eBehar and the Fuse Project. They know how to build beautifully designed products that are incredibly useful to consumers. They built the Jambox, they built the $99 laptop. They are experts in industrial design. We're working closely with NVIDIA as far as not only sort of our CPU, GPU, but also just in general, how do we manufacture this and get it done on time and at the right price. We have a ton of support before we even started from developers and giving us feedback on the product, the vision, how do we think about developing our software. So Brian Fargo and Adam Saltzman, Alex Schwartz from Alchemy Labs, Jordan Mechner, just to name a few. And then since we've launched, we've gotten unbelievable support from developers. We announced last week Robert Bowling is releasing Human Element years early on Ouya exclusively to us. I mean, there's a real excitement for this open game console where really any developer can bring a game to the television. And so we think we just have a great team in place. I mean, we're continuing to build it. I mean, right now we are looking for excellent Android OS developers. So if you know of anyone, grab me afterwards, because that is number one on our list to keep building to our team.
Oh, you're getting ahead of my questions. I'm going to ask you about games later. I still want to talk more about the console itself. I mean, you said $99, you're going to be able to, you're sure you can get all the parts, you can put them together, you can ship them out to people, $99?
Yes.
Okay. But that still raises a question in my mind is, okay, I mean, $5 million, we actually spent a couple $1 billion making Xbox, so $5 million doesn't seem like that much money. And then when I think about the fact that a bunch of that money is going to go to cost of goods to build the console itself and get it to customers, it doesn't leave that much money left over to build all the software, to, I don't know, everything else that you have to do as a team.
Yep. I mean, look, there's a lot that we have to do. We have committed to a certain quantity amount on Kickstarter that we know we can deliver against. The money that we're raising, effectively our number one reward is the $99 reward, which goes exactly into the box. Kickstarter has been a great sort of jumping off point. I mean, look, we've only been in the consciousness of gamers and developers for 12 days or something, 13 days. So it is definitely the beginning, and we have a lot to do. But we're confident that we'll be able to deliver the units that we promised to gamers and make it available to anybody and everyone wherever they are.
Is there anything in the sort of skeptical response that's surprised you? I mean, I know one part I have been laughing about is the criticism of the controller, because there's been you only showed half of it, so maybe only half the controller exists, or that was one thing I saw, or the rightmost button is slanted, you know, oh, they don't even know they should keep all the buttons, and then somebody points out, oh, actually on the Xbox controller, the rightmost button's slanted. Right. And I was thinking, wow, Xbox, we did such a great job on controller, you know, when we launched with that giant Duke controller, you know. Obviously, it's, you know,
yeah, I mean, you can...
the bar has been set really high for you.
I mean, you can definitely blame eBehar and the Fuse project for how much we are sort of showing. They are very conscious of being able to show a final product. It's, you know, you're going to get judged and get feedback on the product when it's final, and yet we're doing something different and we're showing it in development, which I think is even harder. It welcomes comments, both positive and negative, and to some extent that's exactly why we did it. I mean, the whole point of going to Kickstarter was to get early feedback and support. I will tell you now that there is probably no, well, we are hyper aware of color blindness for the buttons on our controller. I don't think that would have been an issue if we didn't take it to the community and hear you speak about it. And what was so amazing just about that one issue was nearly every single email we got about it started off with, by the way, this isn't a problem for me, but 8% of the audience, you know, of men are colorblind. And so first of all, just unbelievable that people are aware of issues for all gamers and want to bring it up, even if it doesn't directly affect them. It was obviously incredibly moving. But to have such an issue be sort of spoken about so often, one that, you know, wasn't sort of the top of the list of, as we think about creating, you know, precise controls and responsive controller and you know, and laser focused on sort of the, you know, of how we build this. That was something that we wanted, now we know to consider and will. And so it is definitely a double-edged sword showing anything to a community before it's done, but we did it specifically for this type of feedback, and it allows us to incorporate it as early as we can.
So the rumor is that the buttons on the controller are going to be Ouya. Is that true, or is that just...
Well, I saw that there's actually a poll out there about whether it should be Ouya, and then moreover, where the OUY and A should start. So we are actually actively watching that poll. Yeah, no final decisions have been made, but it's been fun to watch.
Well, once again, as a business, we've set a very high bar, because if you know, the Nintendo controllers have the A and B in the opposite place as the Xbox controller, so you can't possibly screw it up worse than it's already screwed up from a customer point of view. Sort of, as long as we're talking about the controller, I want to talk about the touch screen. There's obviously one easy way to get a lot of content is going to be Android games ported to the platform, mobile games that are built for touchscreen devices. But I'm having trouble. I know you put a touch screen on the controller. Well, actually, you put a touch pad, I should say. And a touch pad and a touch screen are two different things. I mean, a touch screen, you look, you see where something is, and then you point to it. Whereas a touch controller, you would have to have some kind of cursor or something on the screen. I'm having trouble imagining how it might work.
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, we wanted to build controls that were familiar to gamers and that really allowed for all different types of gameplay. So the standard controller for really the emotionally immersive games on a television. I mean, in order to play well, a first-person shooter or a sports game or a racing game, you really need an actual controller. We don't believe soft controllers provide the best type of experience to those type of games. So it was important that we had a controller with sort of the familiar buttons and triggers and sticks and whatnot. The reason we wanted to add a touchpad is because we really didn't want to limit the type of gameplay available for Ouya. Obviously, it certainly helps that a number of games in the mobile platforms have been built using a touchscreen or a touchpad, which obviously would allow for a lot of content day one and people being able to port it. Ouya is definitely not just about porting mobile games, but bringing AAA content and new types of gameplay that might even leverage both the touchpad and the standard controls. But specific to your question, yes, there will be developers will have to think about how to orient a user when they use the touchpad for their games. And it's something that we just have to work with developers on.
Okay, kind of back to the bigger questions. Another thing you're going to have to build is, I assume you're going to build your own digital distribution store. I mean, even though this is Android, I don't think it's going to be the Google Play store where people buy the content.
That's correct, it won't be. We will, so we are building our own UI, our own storefront. We'll have our own payments provider. But yes, we will have our own sort of Ouya store that all of the content will be available and downloadable through.
And why isn't that a daunting prospect? I mean, I guess I think about Valve working a long time on Steam, for example. But I know you come from the digital distribution world, so maybe it's not so scary for you.
Yeah, I mean, look, the most important thing in building a storefront at the end of the day is discovery. And how do you find great content, and how do you make great content bubble to the top? And the good news there is we have a lot of examples in the world today of people that do it really well and people that show signs for improvement. We are early in the stages to think about how we want to do that. I mean, we are getting a ton of support from developers that are telling me they want to bring their content to the device, that want to build exclusively for the device. We have rewards in Kickstarter where we will actually market and promote your games. And all of these things, we're sort of finalizing what our strategy is, because we can't really do anything until we know at the end of the day how many titles we'll have, what genres they're in, when they're launching. But the most important thing is curation and discovery, and that's what we're hyper-focused in delivering sort of a great product.
Okay, so let's dig into that, because that's a really important topic for developers. Because I think when you say open, sometimes things can be too open. I think some developers feel like, well, Google Store, anything can go in and everything goes in, and there's a lot of crap. And maybe Apple is a little bit more closed, but maybe it's a little better user experience. I mean, philosophically, what are you guys trying to aim for from an end user experience point of view?
Yeah, I mean, the way that we have built Ouya is that any developer that ever wanted to build a game for the television could do so. And based on the emails I'm getting, it's high school students that are 16 that want to make sure if they get parental control, a guardian to say yes, the game would go up there, to educators in schools, to AAA developers, to small teams of 2 to 5 people. So we want our system to be accessible to anybody that wants to develop a game for the television. Quality directly gets related to revenue. And so the better the quality of the game, the better you'll perform. Our job is to help sort of bubble those up to the top, and we'll utilize ourselves and the community to help do that. I mean, it's something we're still, it's still very much in development.
So when you say curated, you don't mean that you're going to pick things that go up there and things that don't. I don't know, you used the word curated, so I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think curation is key in how you think about delivering a great product of content. The exact way with which we're doing it, we're still working on.
Okay. Well, let me just, I guess the obvious follow-up to that is malware, kind of heading into sort of the bad, evil side of open, right? I mean, if any guy in his garage can put something up, what about things that steal my personal information or do bad things?
I mean, first and foremost, you have to trust the community. When you make something open, it really is up to them what they can do. I mean, we thought very long and hard about the business model for Ouya. We've embraced a free-to-play or even a free-to-try model, which effectively says some element of the game has to be free. But then we've given the developers total freedom and flexibility to decide how they want to monetize for their content, how they want to charge the user. So it could be in-game items and microtransactions. It could be subscriptions. It could even be a demo with a fully paid version. But because we've embraced the free-to-play model, anything that is paid for will require the authentication of our servers. Android already has great security measures put in place. Jelly Bean has taken it a step further. We will be looking at all of these, but at the end of the day, you have to sort of trust your audience.
Okay, so in that sense, maybe it's like the PC today, in that you could go anywhere and download anything to your PC, and some of it might be good and some of it might be scary.
Look, we allow our users to download it. I mean, you and I talked about this issue of piracy and why people really do it, and it's less about the price per se and more about just having the availability of it.
Yeah.
And because Ouya is open, it should be available to everyone. And we just, we will. Developers' IP is very important to us. We know you put your heart and soul into the games, and we'll do everything we can to protect that.
Yeah, there's just kind of change tracks a little bit. This is one complaint I saw a lot that I didn't really understand, which was why do we need Ouya? We already have PCs. But I think there's an easy answer to that, but I'll let you say it.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that question, and I also saw why do we need Ouya? There's phones and tablets that
I could hook my tablet.
Yeah, and I think, look, Ouya is everything in one in a $99 box that has, great content that we think will have not only content that you're already familiar with on other platforms, but new content that isn't available anywhere else because they're leveraging our controller in a unique way, or they weren't able to bring their games to the television and now they can. So we provide, what we will provide is a great experience at an affordable price at a business model that's easily understood where every gamer can effectively try a game for free. And it's simple. You don't have to grab your iPad and find a controller that speaks to it, and then find games that work on the 10-foot experience. I mean, we're making sure that it's a great experience from day one. I mean, and at the end of the day, at $99, we believe this is something that can be in the living room of every gamer, that would want it.
Yeah, I mean.
How would you answer that question?
No, I think you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think. Sure, there's a way to do it maybe with these other things. You could cobble it together, but that's different than something that lots of people are going to want to do in their house.
And people will, and people have. But I think the greater community at large would love something as simple as, by the way, a beautifully designed console and controller that is powerful enough to play great games from your platformers and your sports games all the way to the casual games.
Yeah, and I mean, and the fact is, if you're a smaller developer, an independent developer, today, it's hard to get your game on the TV. I mean, it's, you either have to work with one of the big publishers to get one of their slots, or you have to work with one of the first parties, and maybe you don't want to. Maybe you've already self-funded it.
Yep.
Why do you have to jump through those hoops and deal with those contracts and all that?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to a number of developers, and they speak exactly what you said. It's financially time-consuming. It's a brain drain to have to go through the contract negotiations, and sometimes they just don't have the resources and time to do it. What I've seen from the community of developers that have reached out to me is they all want their games on the television. I mean, that was always sort of their vision, and which wasn't an option until now. So there's just a ton of excitement and enthusiasm around Ouya, and I think we're going to have some great content that it's really never been seen before because the television is now accessible to them. I mean, who doesn't want to build a game for a screen that has HD quality and earth-shattering surround sound and the immersive experience of a 66-inch HD 1080p LED television?
Yeah, I mean, not to mention free-to-play, right? I mean. You basically can't do free-to-play today on the existing consoles, and so, but it's such an important trend in mobile and on the PC now. So,
yeah, I mean, we really wanted to embrace what was working, and what was working was free-to-play. I mean, it was embraced early by the core. It has seen a tremendous amount of expense and success in mobile, and ultimately, we really wanted to give the power and the decision-making to the developers. I mean, this is your game. You should be able to build it and monetize it in the way that you want to do it. From a gamer's point of view, we didn't want people feeling that they spent $60 for a game and potentially did not like the experience. And then, by the way, can't buy another game for months and months and months because their budget doesn't allow it. I mean, you'd be surprised by how many gamers can't afford a console or can't afford console price games. So we wanted to make it accessible to every single type of gamer. Some aspect of the game has to be free, so that satisfies the gamer's need to try everything and not be limited by a sticker price. But then flip it to the developers and say, and for that, you can charge it any way you want. Full download, $59 game, microtransactions, 99 cents, $2.99. I mean, it's truly up to you. And it also, I think, helps the developers in how they think about developing the game and how much of it is built on the front end and how much they have to spend up front. It allows them to potentially tweak the gameplay or even the story based on the response from gamers. So we wanted something that was accessible and affordable and chose free-to-play just for that reason.
And I know you and I have both been getting a lot of emails from developers, and I've been forwarding them all to you.
Yes, thank you.
So there's clearly an interest. But one of the complaints that's out there is, well, they don't even have one game they can point to that's definitely going to be on this platform. And this whole Minecraft thing was, they used their name, but it's not clear it's going to be there, and blah, blah, blah.
Sure. I mean, look, we made an announcement last week of one of the first games that's going to be on it, Robert Bowling. Human Element is coming to Ouya in March of next year. It is years before he's developing it for the other consoles. It'll be, an exclusive sort of first-party title for us that we're super excited to have. I mean, the reason that we haven't, announced our entire, launch slate of games is the reality is we don't want it to be stale by March. We have a long time to go. We're having great conversations with developers, people that are interested in not only bringing their current content, but new content to our platform, as well as develop specifically for our platform, and we wanted to have those conversations. We are talking to mobile developers and indie developers and AAA developers and publishers. We will make more announcements throughout the Kickstarter that make sense, that are resonating. I mean, our focus right now is building a great product. There is no question we're going to have great content, and we'll announce more as it makes sense, but we just wanted to be thoughtful to where we are in development. I mean, I think that's one thing that you talked about, some of the skepticism and criticism. By the way, I think skepticism is incredibly healthy. It keeps us on our toes, and it is those questions that help us, potentially rethink some of the decisions that we've made. I talked about the Ethernet. We made a comment that, if you root the device, the Ouya store would no longer be available. But there's a lot of things that you can do in rooting the device that wouldn't necessarily impact the storefront. So we're actually sort of rethinking that. But we never would have been in this place if we weren't allowing the public to, both be positive and provide, thoughtful, comments for us to address. We had developer support at the beginning. Notch has approved every single thing that we have said. He was a huge supporter initially. He is a huge financial supporter of what we've done. And we'll just continue to bring on more developers as they show, enthusiasm and excitement for what we're doing.
So if I were a developer sitting in the audience, I'd be wanting to ask, are you funding development? Are you going to have a first-party group that funds development for this platform? And if so, where do I sign up?
Yes, absolutely. No, we have been very vocal about part of the goal of Kickstarter is also to enable us to have funds to fund game development. So that is a program that we absolutely want to do. It's something that we'll think about and we'll communicate more after the Kickstarter campaign is over. I mean, that is one of the beauties of us blowing past our goal, is that it allows us to not only bring more consoles to the market day one, but it allows us to provide more tools for game developers. And so as that number continues to grow, it just means there's more and more we can do. So we're super excited about that. And I have our email address that's already out there, devs@ouya.tv. Email me. I'm talking to all of you now, and many of you and more after the Kickstarter campaign is over, when I can take a breath and sort of finalize this and know where we end up and how much ability we'll have to support game development. But it is something we intend to do.
And what about the big traditional publishers? Are there any conversations going on with them you can talk about?
We are talking to all of them.
You're talking to them. Okay. All right. I'm running out of my questions, and I definitely wanted to leave some time for questions for the audience. So let's turn to the audience and get some hard questions.
Can you tell us where the backers are coming from in terms of territories?
Sure. Sure. So the question was, where are backers coming from? I mean, truly international backing. So I have seen backers from Australia and Brazil and Japan and Sweden and Switzerland and France and the UK and Germany, obviously the US and Canada. Egypt was as an email I got last night. Saudi Arabia was another email I got last night. So, I mean, this is really resonating to gamers on a global basis, and we're excited to be able to support that as we develop Ouya.
I was just wondering what you guys are going to do to try to make sure that this goes beyond a niche product. Even with the 50, call it 100,000 devices you sell through the Kickstarter campaign, it doesn't touch the reach of an Xbox or Microsoft and the marketing budgets that they have to promote their own consoles. So how are you guys going to try to get beyond just a niche product with too small of an audience?
Yep. So the question is, how do we move beyond a niche product that only has tens of thousands of units versus tens of millions of units of the greater console market? So my answer is, we're 13, 14 days in the consciousness of gamers. I mean, I think the fact that we sold 40,000 plus units in a week is really telling that this idea is resonating and actually can move beyond niche. I mean, the momentum alone makes me feel that this is going to be millions of units. We're doing this differently by speaking to the community. And at the end of the day, I mean, Kickstarter still speaks to a very sort of select group of individuals, and we are trying, to expand that as much as possible so as many people know about what we're doing and support us. We'll continue to communicate to the audience. We will launch a website. It will be launched after Kickstarter. We wanted to stay focused on what we did day one. But I think there's a lot of momentum and interest. And at the end of the day, you've seen this in the press a lot. It's the chicken and the egg issue, right? Developers want gamers, gamers want developers. So as we bring on more developers, we're seeing the backer number increase. As the backer number increases, we're seeing more interest from developers. And that's something that we're continuing to work. But I think the early signs are, incredibly positive, between, achieving our goal, which was, obviously our biggest concern. I mean, a $950,000 Kickstarter ask, I think, was, if not one of the largest asks there was. And it was important to us because it wasn't just about building consoles or even building developer tools, but to what you asked earlier, Ed, it was to help, fund game development. And we wanted to make sure that we could do all three of those things day one, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how beautiful your device is, it doesn't matter how powerful your device is, there have to be games on it that people want to play. And we recognize that. So we wanted to make sure we would have that day one, and through the support that we've received so far, we feel confident that we will have those type of games for you. Robert Bowling is just one example of someone that's supporting us early. So I think the answer is we're on our way. I mean, this is a product in development, and the early feedback is just continuing to sort of push us forward.
Yeah, I think there's only been 7 games north of $1 million on Kickstarter, so or maybe 7 projects total that have been above $1 million on Kickstarter. Also, I think probably the reason you have somebody like Notch excited about this is because it's similar to what he did. I mean, it started getting it out early, working with the community, and just letting it build. And who knows, right? Who knows if that'll work? But it has worked before, so.
Yeah. So the $99 price point is interesting, but there are other boxes out there like Apple TV, Google TV, Roku, and now a controller. How do you stay ahead of that? It seems like an easier thing for them to add a physical controller to work with next generation of that box than it is for you to use a new box. Yeah. So how do you stay ahead of that?
That's a great question. The question is, there are other boxes out there for $99 that are getting into the game space with controllers. How do you stay ahead of Apple TV and Roku and the like? So we are a game console first and foremost. I think that is our biggest sort of differentiating point. Our goal day one is to build a great game console that has the accessibility from a price point for gamers, but the openness for developers that anyone wanted to build for television can. So the way that we think about the development and performance is from a gamer's point of view. We want to make sure that it is a great game experience, that it is a standard controller, that it has the ability to leverage new types of gameplay with the inclusion of a touchpad. So yes, the price point is the same, and they already have an audience, but we are focusing on gamers first and foremost, which I think is one of our biggest differentiators. The other thing is this is built on Android. So at the end of the day, any content that is built for Android could find its way to Ouya. So in addition to being a great gaming device first and foremost, you'll be able to stream videos and stream music and play other applications. You'll be able to sideload content through our USB port. You'll be able to make this device yours if you want to. We have standard screws in the console and the controller. You can open it up and really make it your own. So I think there's a lot of different things that can attract gamers, developers, even sort of the hobbyist sort of hacker community. Price point is one thing. The accessibility of games is another with us embracing the free-to-play model. And just that we think about it as a game console first. I mean, that is the reason to buy Ouya. It is going to be a beautifully designed, powerful game console with content that we believe you can't get anywhere else. And by the way, it's built on Android, so you can also stream video and music.
First of all, Julie, I love the idea that ideas must come. I'm thinking with the developers' relationship to you, do you anticipate that to be similar to the way that we have a relationship with Google? So, there's a revenue share transaction that's flowing through the store. And if so, have you announced any thoughts around what that might be? Is there a payment to get into that store like Google and Apple have?
Yeah, so the question was around basically our business model with developers. So that's also something that we are pulling from the mobile space. We've said publicly that it's going to be a 70-30 rev shares. The developers take 70%, 30% goes to us to do Ouya. It is a free-to-play model, so that is one thing that you have to embrace with your games. There will be no ads on the platform from us. If you want to do a game that has ads in it, it's up to you. I mean, we don't think a lot of developers will do that, but that is your choice. And as far as we look at it, for $99, you're getting a great console and all the tools that you need to develop for the game. It's already built into the console. Basically, every single console is a debug console. Everything you will need to build a great game for Ouya will come with it, which is, ironic because, for $99, you can build an iOS game, right? But for $99, you can build all the games that you want year after year after year. So we try to make it incredibly accessible to developers with no expensive SDKs that you need to purchase.
Just sort of related to that, I got a question last night over email that asked, what's the marketing plan for developers that contribute at the $700 level? How special can you make each individual game appear amongst 300 plus developers?
Yep. I mean, that is something we're actively working on. It's hard to finalize a strategy until we know how many developers we'll have, how many games we'll have, when they'll be coming out. But we are committed to providing great marketing support with the developers and working with them to do that. I mean, one thing about Kickstarter we've made ourselves incredibly accessible to you. In responding to your feedback and speaking to you on a regular basis. That's not going to change, in 29 days from the moment we started when this is over. We want to be accessible, available. I mean, hopefully I will get some help at some point, but, I am the one that's answering every single developer email and will continue to do so because I want to hear from you. I want to learn about your games. I want to know how to make this the best product possible, whether it's for, our version 1 of Ouya or version, 15 that comes out 10 years from now. We have said that we believe it's the people's console. And maybe that's cheesy and cheesy, I guess, is actually the best word. But we really mean it. I mean, we want your feedback and your support. That's why we went down this route with Kickstarter, and that's why your feedback is important to us, and that's why we are, when possible, actually making decisions and changing some of our original thought because so many of you have voiced, an interest in that. I mean, we have 42,000 plus backers, and it's a combination of both gamers and developers. We have an ideas email box as well, in addition to what games people want to see and what specs they want to see. And we also are getting a lot of comments, well, if it's based on Android, can't we get Netflix and Hulu Plus and Spotify and iHeartRadio and all these different types of content? And the answer is yes, absolutely. It's based on Android. All of that content will be available to us. I'm just reaching out to all of them now. No, I have not been able to sort of tally I'm just trying to respond as quickly as I can to everyone. But the idea that it is Android and it opens itself to both game content and traditional, and sort of video and music content has absolutely resonated, and the requests have come in, and we plan on, providing both.
I saw a question in the back there, yeah. That's a good question. Is it open to other stores?
We at launches we're launching our own store, the Ouya storefront. So that's the plans today is to support our only store. If there's interest from other stores, that means we're actually doing something right. That means there is a huge audience of people that wants Ouya. We can certainly look into that at that point. But today we'll be supporting our store.
Go ahead, Sharon.
No, that's a good question. How are we going to get consoles into people's hands? So we've actually been having conversations already with both online and offline retailers. I mean, the nice thing about Kickstarter is it has showed that people want this. And so it is our goal to make it easy for you to get wherever you want to get an Ouya device. But we haven't finalized our plans yet for that. It's something that we're still developing. And we'll certainly communicate it to the audience once we've nailed it down.
It's kind of related to a question someone emailed me. It says, what is Ouya's post-Kickstarter strategy for marketing and distribution to the masses of U.S. and or international markets? I don't know. Maybe you feel like you just answered that.
Yeah, no, we're working on it, yeah.
All right. Go ahead.
I was wondering about, you mentioned the free-to-play requirement. Are there any others that
Yeah, so the question is, what models, business models have we looked at? So we looked at a number of them. I mean, the reason we really like the free-to-play model is we believe it really aligns gamers and developers' interests. So developers have to build great quality product so that a gamer will buy it. And from a gamer perspective, it gives them the choice to try a number of different games and then purchase what they have enjoyed and what they want to use. And so we think that aligns the interests of gamers and developers. We also think it reduces the amount of copycat games that you see out there today, because in the free-to-play world, there's really no reason for it. You get to try the game for free. So the idea that an excellent paid version of the game, someone's coming out with a free version and throwing ads on and confusing the user because the game mechanics are the same and the name is the same, really doesn't make sense in a free-to-play world. And so we also think that is a way for us to protect sort of the IP and the creativity of developers. The rule that every game has to have some element of it to be free is really our response to accessibility for gamers. The idea that after that point, the business model is totally up to the developer, whether it's microtransactions or a subscription or a demo and a paid version or whatever else the next sort of business model is. We've created it in such a way that we can embrace all of that and really support the developers.
Okay, I think I saw do you still have a question?
Yeah, you guys talked a little bit about AAA studios moving into the comfortable mobile space and free-to-play. For those studios that are kind of savvy in that space, they're going to be concerned about user acquisition, they're going to be concerned about discoverability, so that has everything to do with your store. And the decisions that you guys make as far as user acquisition, because different stores handle that a little bit differently. You guys probably haven't made any decisions on that kind of stuff yet, but can you talk maybe about the conversations that you're having around that and what's kind of influencing the marketplace? Because that's going to be, for developers, a big decision to make. And the decisions that you make are going to decide whether or not we want to jump into that.
Yeah, absolutely. The idea about discoverability and how do we curate content and how we think about it as it relates to sort of AAA developers, it's very important. And I don't think it makes sense for me to share sort of our thoughts on how we're thinking about it yet, because we're still really early in the development of how we're going to do this. It really depends upon how much content we have day one, and how we think about sort of promotion in general. It's just something that we're continuing to work on. We just haven't finalized it yet. But it is one of the biggest initiatives of Ouya.
Go ahead.
So, after the initial excitement of a nice free-play model, a low-cost box, open design, that's created initial interest. Once that's faded, once the product is out there, and once a $99 box is competing with, for example, the Wii U is already getting panned for not being powerful enough. It's not even out. And people are seeing demos of it and already have a very strong opinion, and you're targeting a very opinionated group of, if you are trying to get something from gamers, that would definitely be a concern. So once the excitement fades, what is it that you believe is going to catapult the system into something that'll have longevity, that will, for example, outsell the PlayStation Vita, which is already currently considered a sales flop in the segment?
Yeah. So the question was, after the initial excitement of launching Ouya, how do we stay in the consciousness and build a great, keep people excited about it? So I think, first of all, we believe strongly that the specifications that we're putting into the marketplace for Ouya is powerful, that will play great games. We're working closely with NVIDIA to really enhance the performance of the Tegra 3 chip. We believe that our specifications lends itself to great games and great gameplay. So that's first and foremost. Second of all, it's content, and we all know it's content. It's having great content that is exclusive to the device, unique to the device, or different in some way that potentially is on other platforms. We believe, and Brian Fargo, communicated this very well a couple weeks ago, which is we believe Ouya has the opportunity to bring new types of gameplay to console gaming, specifically because how we think about the controller and allowing sort of the standard controls with the touchpad. So we think there's going to be new and creative content on Ouya that won't be available anywhere else, and it's those type of things that will want people to continue to come back and to buy Ouyas and to, want to sort of continue to use our device.
It's interesting to think about the game market, though. It's almost a a backlash against, sort of the super high-end graphics, super high-quality stuff. I mean, I don't know. The games I'm playing more now, Minecraft, Spelunky recently, Super Meat Boy, Fez. I mean, any of these games could easily run on this platform. So I think the platform is aligned with sort of this trend in where game development's heading.
So you talk about your aiming this at gamers, and that's kind of a loaded word sometimes. Are you aiming it at console gamers, but then it's running on Android, and that kind of implies mobile gamers. So are you trying to bring those together on this marketplace? I mean, as a developer, I'm trying to figure out what kind of games I want to put on it, and who do I expect will be on the other end of that screen when it launches?
Yeah. So the question is, who are the gamers? Who are we targeting? And because it's based on Android and yet it's for the console. And I think what we have heard is that Ouya resonates with gamers that are core, that think this is super cool and there's going to be unique games on this that they won't be able to play on other devices, all the way to the casual who would love to see Triple Town and Drop 7 played on a television screen. So from a developer perspective, I mean, I think you need to think about the whole sort of continuum of what a gamer is. And from my perspective, and I spent many years at IGN, and we spent a lot of time thinking about how do you classify a gamer. And what we came up with at the end of the day was the old definitions of gamers just don't exist anymore. A hardcore gamer that's playing 10 hours of Call of Duty every single night is playing Triple Town on their mobile device. It's all about the type of experience you want to have and leveraging the platform for that experience. And so Ouya, we believe, it's a $99 box. Anybody will be able to have it in their living room. And we think it's going to attract both core gamers all the way to casual gamers. And we think it's a product really for the mainstream. You agree? What do you think?
I'm really hoping that's the market I want to hit.
I mean, look, most gamers don't know what Android is, right? Most gamers don't know what Xbox games are built on. I mean, the brilliance of Android is for us is that it's open, and as developers, you already know how to do it. You already know how to make games with Android, and there's already a ton of content out there. I mean, there are already great shooters and racing games and sports games that happen to be built on Android. The average gamer doesn't even know what that means, but for the developers, it means accessibility, it means affordability, and it means reaching a mainstream audience in the living room, which is something that is a challenge for a lot of developers to do today, whether you're a mobile developer or indie developer, even a AAA developer. It's not easy for anybody.
I think we can squeeze in one last question, and I saw that. The guy next to you, sir. I saw him first. So,
I'll get you after, I promise.
The console's coming out beginning of the second quarter of fiscal year 13. By fourth quarter of fiscal year 13, what do you expect your challenge will be in integrating into the market of the console, of all the consoles?
Sure. So I'm certainly not going to guess when these consoles are coming out, but they are coming out. I mean, it is conceivable that there'll be at least one by the holidays of 2013 when Ouya is going to hit its stride. I think we have a unique positioning in the marketplace as far as how we price it, the accessibility of our games, and then obviously the content that's going to be on it. I mean, there are over 100 million game consoles in living rooms today. 50% of people have more than one game console. We don't believe this is an either-or scenario. We think we're going to have unique creative content that isn't available anywhere else, and people are going to want Ouya. A lot of what you can do will be, on other consoles will be available on Ouya, and again, for $99. I mean, it's based on Android, so video content, music content, applications will all be available in addition to a great gaming device. So no one, I can't foresee how this is going to play out, but I think we have a very strong value proposition, and I think we'll have games that just won't be available anywhere else that people will want to play.
I'll just add from a developer's perspective, you can look at what's happening with traditional console publishers, and their stock prices are going down, they're funding less and less projects. Maybe the projects are getting bigger, but they're doing less and less of them. And so as a developer, what do? I mean, you can go to mobile, and then you're not on the TV. Or there's an opportunity to get to the TV where you don't have to rely on these big publishers that are doing less and less. So I don't know, to me it's exciting for that reason. And with that, I think we'll thank Julie, and thanks, you did a great
you.
job.
Thank you.
What do you guys think? And I think both of us are going to be able to hang out for a while and answer any questions that people have afterwards. Thanks again, guys.
Thank you so much.